A triple try for property tax reform. Ahead on Face the State, high property taxes continue to be a hot topic in the Ohio State House and Ohio households. Representative Gary Click is aiming to give taxpayers more of a voice in the taxes they pay. He lays out his new Taxpayer Freedom Trilogy. Also, a renewed effort to end hair discrimination over traits associated with race, like braids, twists, and afros. A lawmaker is making a fourth attempt to pass the Crown Act. And a new effort to enshrine an Ohio icon in state law. Should the delicious Buckeye be the official state candy? Did you already think it was? A new Buckeye bill has bipartisan support. Thanks for joining us for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have told me high property taxes is the #1 complaint they hear from constituents. Many bills have been introduced to try to address the problem. The General Assembly passed several this year that Governor Mike DeWine then vetoed, saying the tax cuts would hurt schools and other public services. Now another attempt in triplet. State Representative Gary Click has introduced the Taxpayer Freedom Trilogy. It's a package of 3 bills he says is designed to restore transparency, accountability, and fairness to Ohio's property tax system. Basically, it would give taxpayers a louder voice on the taxes they are willing or not willing to pay. Here's how it breaks down. House Bill 420 would end continuing levies. These are tax levies that have been on the books for a long time. House Bill 421 allows citizens to vote on lowering inside millages if they think they are too high. Click says inside millages are taxes counties can raise without voter approval up to 10 mills. And House Bill 422 increases voter approval thresholds for new levies, so a higher percentage of voters would be needed to approve a tax increase. I caught up with Representative Click to dig into the Taxpayer Freedom Trilogy. Where do property taxes stand on the list of topics that you hear about from your constituents?
I don't know if I can reach that high. That's the most important thing, the most frequent thing that we are hearing about right now in the legislature is property taxes. People, there's been just a surge in valuations, and that just means a spike in property taxes, and people are upset about it, and I don't blame them one bit.
So what is the idea behind your proposed trio of bills that you've dubbed the Taxpayers Freedom Trilogy?
Well, I've been doing a lot of listening, a lot of paying attention to what people are saying. And to me, these seem to be 3 simple aspects, things that we can do. And there's going to be pushback. There's pushback on both sides. And really, that's a lot of what we're facing right now as legislators is number one, we don't receive the property taxes and we don't assess the property taxes. We don't really have anything to do with that, but everyone's calling on us to solve it. Those who do assess property taxes don't want us to do anything. Those who pay property taxes want us to do everything. And I think there's a common sense middle ground. And that's what I'm trying to achieve with this trilogy of bills.
And the first one, I believe, would it would phase out permanent levies. Can you explain that?
Right. Well, we are paying taxes that our parents and our grandparents voted on and that were, proposed and put in place by politicians that are long dead or at least no longer in office. And I believe that each generation has the right to speak and have a voice on the taxes that they pay. The motto in the beginning was not no taxation, but it was no taxation without representation. And every generation has the right to representation in the taxes that they pay. So there should be, according to this bill, there will be no more permanent taxes, but they have to be renewed and they have to be revived in each generation.
And another step in this would allow voters to reduce what's called inside millage. Can you explain what inside millage is and why voters should have that right to approve?
Absolutely, that's a terrific question. Inside millage is taxes that are not voted on. It's property you don't vote on it. The people who've been elected to represent you or appointed to represent you, they have up to 10 mills that they can just raise the taxes and set those tax rates for different things. And so what we're saying here is, okay, this is an opportunity for voters who say, you're getting too much. And really, when there was this spike, some of these entities received a huge bonus and a boon in their income, and they didn't have to take it. But a lot of them said, well, we really need it, so we're going to take it anyway. And that really frustrates a lot of the taxpayers. So when that happens, the taxpayer, rather than just totally abolish the inside millage, which has been a thought, to say, okay, if the taxpayers are really motivated and they don't see the benefit, they can get a petition together, get 15% of the voters in the last election to come together and sign this petition, and then turn that in and then put it on the ballot and vote to reduce that millage. It's not to eliminate it, although that could be the outcome, but they can just say, listen, the millage is too high. We're going to take it down a little bit. We're going to make it more reasonable.
And then the final phase in this trilogy is that, again, it's about voters really being involved, and that would be increasing, I guess, the percentage of the vote needed to raise a tax rate.
So we're trying to make taxes harder to raise and easier to decrease. And so with this, we're just saying, listen, the more you want, the higher the bar is to raise those taxes. And if you're asking for a little bit, the bar is not quite so high. But the more you ask for, the higher the standard is to achieve that. And that will help those taxing entities to really think about how much do we really need, how much do we really want, and what are the chances of us succeeding? And the higher the ask, the lower the chances of success are in new taxes.
The question then always comes back to, if these taxes are lowered or eliminated, then how do you replace them and make sure that key services aren't lost, such as police and fire?
You're exactly right, and that's why I think this is a middle ground. I know there's a lot of push, and I understand the passion to eliminate property taxes. People are upset. I would like to not pay taxes. I would also like to not pay for my internet. I'd also like to not pay for my mortgage. I would also really like to not pay my cell phone bill. There's a lot of bills I would like to not pay, but when I think about not paying them, what's the cost? What happens if I don't make my car payment? Well, there goes my car. And the same thing is going to happen if we eliminate property taxes. I've had to call the fire department twice in my lifetime. Once for a house fire that I was in, one for a house that was on fire that I can just look out my window right now and see this house that was on fire. And I'm sure glad that the fire department showed up. So we have to balance these things. And even when we go to the referendum, there's going to be a pro and a con on the ballot, 300 words for each to say, this is what happens. This is why we should reduce this. And then this is what happens if we do reduce it. And okay, you're going to lose your fire department, or you're not going to have EMS, or these types of things. So people understand what they're voting on. I totally understand the frustration of the voters. I'm the taxpayers, I'm with them, but I also want to make sure that we do things in a responsible fashion.
Yeah, there's that effort out there by a grassroots group to abolish property taxes across the state and put that on the ballot for folks to vote on next year. What do you think of that effort?
Well, I understand the passion that they have, but I always try to ask, what's beyond the target? Okay, so if we do this, then what? And we want to make sure we consider. And even since I've been in the legislature, one of the things we try to pay most attention to is the unintended consequences. We don't want to do bad while we're doing good. And that can happen sometimes unintentionally. And I think that we need to think, okay, how are we going to cover these services? And so if you're going to do one thing in the same bill, you need to do the next thing. Unfortunately, some of them are saying to me, when I ask them those questions, they say, well, you're going to fix it. And the legislature will take care of it. And I'm thinking, really? So you don't trust us to do this, but when you make it worse, you're going to trust us to fix it. And they come up with some alternate things like sales tax, which really, when you think about it, you're going to have to quadruple, if not more, the sales tax. But what that does, especially on the edges of our state, it's going to drive people going across state lines to make their purchases, because it's just going to make financial sense for them. And it's going to hurt those local entities, those local subdivisions that have to maintain those services for their community. So the passion is real, and I don't blame them for the passion. I just don't think it's well thought out.
And Representative Click says the House may try to override more of the governor's property tax vetoes once the General Assembly's break ends in mid-September. Still ahead on Face the State, Governor DeWine wants to ban kratom, blaming the substance for hundreds of overdose deaths. But those in the industry say a ban would go too far. Hear their argument next. Plus, sweet, savory chocolate and creamy peanut butter, the iconically Ohio Buckeye candy. Later, the effort to make it the official candy of the state. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is calling on the State Board of Pharmacy to ban kratom. It is a plant-based substance that is marketed as a natural remedy for pain and opioid withdrawal. Ohio would be the first state in the country to ban all forms of kratom, both natural and synthetic. 10 TV's Libby Cathy talked to business owners to find out more about the potential impact.
Inside Life of Kratom, Jack Smith sells products that he says saved his life.
I got in an accident and broke my neck, was put on opiates, pain pills, and they said I'll be on these the rest of my life.
The former race car driver says natural kratom helped him to recover instead, and now helps many of his customers with pain, anxiety, and withdrawal. But that could soon change. Governor Mike DeWine is calling on the Ohio Board of Pharmacy to ban all kratom products, both natural and synthetic, by classifying them as Schedule I illegal drugs.
It's incredible the amount of people that they're going to affect here by doing this emergency ban.
DeWine calls kratom an imminent public health risk, blaming it for more than 200 overdose deaths in Ohio since 2019. But Smith says the governor is lumping natural plant powder in with synthetic, lab-made versions.
I would beg him to please stop and see what's really affecting this market. It's the synthetic part, these opioids that they're literally making synthetically. It's causing this problem. It's not the powder itself.
Natalie DeVere, who co-owns Miracle Kratom in Columbus, agrees. She says synthetic products should be banned, but natural kratom should be regulated, not prohibited.
But I think they actually need to take a look at all the facts and information and understand what they're actually banning instead of lumping kratom together.
Both owners say they support state regulation, like age limits, testing, labeling, which they already practice, but fear an outright ban could send Ohioans back to dangerous alternatives.
It will take the ability for people to use a natural product for whatever reason they want out of their hands, and it will kind of leave them with no alternatives.
What they're going to do is cause a bad problem for these people that depend on kratom not to relapse.
Reporting in Columbus, Libby Cathy, 10 TV News.
And we'll continue to follow that. A new bill introduced at the Ohio State House in this General Assembly would prohibit discrimination in public schools because of your hair. It's called the Crown Act. Crown stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. This proposal would apply to all hairstyles, including braids, locks, twists, and afros that are commonly associated with race. I say a new bill in this General Assembly because this is actually the fourth time the Crown Act has been introduced in the last 7 years. Bill's sponsor, State Representative Juanita Brent, says this is not just a cultural issue, it's an educational equity issue.
Fran Frazier founded Black Girl Rising, a Columbus nonprofit that gives black girls a voice. She says the girls often voice their feelings about their hair.
They're always having to deal with somebody saying something about how they wear their hair. And yes, they do talk about it a lot, and no, they don't like it.
Frazier supports the Crown Act. It would prohibit discrimination in Ohio public schools and preschools because of traits associated with race, including hair texture and styles.
I think what people of color have found out is that laws are probably the only way you get protected.
In June of 2024, the Ohio House passed the Crown Act with broad bipartisan support by a vote of 83-7. At that time, we talked with Jamie Blunt and her daughter Jay, now a high school senior in Gahanna. Jay said she has never experienced hair discrimination, but likes the bill.
A lot of girls that I know wear their hair to express themselves, and I feel like it's a good thing that black and brown girls can't express themselves like that.
But the bill did not advance in the Senate last year. So Democratic State Representative Juanita Brent is trying again, along with her Republican co-sponsor, State Representative Jamie Callender. They reintroduced the Crown Act earlier this month. Brent was not available for an interview Monday, but in a news release said, no student should be punished or excluded from learning because of the way their hair naturally grows or how they choose to wear it to embrace their culture. The Crown Act affirms that every child in Ohio deserves to show up as their full self without facing bias or discipline because of their appearance. Frazier says black women have incredible hair that they can do many, many things with and look fabulous.
And so we have to have a law that says that we can do that and be proud of what we do with our hair. Then we need that law.
If the bill becomes law, a person could sue a school or preschool for discrimination over their hairstyle. The legislature is scheduled to get back to work in mid-September. We'll follow the Crown Act's progress as lawmakers consider it for a fourth time. Meantime, the city of Columbus passed its own version of the Crown Act in 2021. This school year, Ohio State is welcoming more than 8,000 incoming freshmen. Classes started last week. Ahead of that, 10 TV's Colin Dorsey caught up with OSU President Ted Carter to talk about the upcoming year and some of the changes at the university this year.
The Buckeyes are back. Some 8,200 new students are calling OSU home for the year, making up a student body that amasses more than 66,000. Welcoming the freshmen was a bit different this year. Convocation now in the hands of the Office of Student Life. A lot more excitement and even plenty of prizes for the new students. Before all the pomp and circumstance, I met up with University President Ted Carter about the upcoming year and the changes to fall in line with state and federal demands.
We have not had impacts to any scholarships to any students, nor to any employment of any of our students. So our philosophy going into this new era, if you will, in the wake of SB 1 is to make sure that we are supporting all students and showing them success.
Senate Bill 1 eliminated diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at Ohio's colleges and universities. Carter hinted the changes due to the bill aren't completely finished.
Of course, SB 1, we did an amazing amount of work to have that all put in place by June 27th. There's still some things that will come later.
However, what those changes are, he didn't say. One change made back in the spring, the Center for Belonging and Social Change, is now the Buckeye Commons,
which is a place for all students to be able to go and find success, get support for just about anything they could possibly want.
Carter also expects a drop in international student enrollment at the university, but not to the degree other schools are expecting.
It's expected about 150,000 fewer international students, again, across the United States. That's a 15% drop. We're thinking about 5 to 7% drop here, so we're feeling okay right now.
From the Ohio State University, Colin Dorsey, 10 TV News.
Right now, Ohio needs some help filling the ranks of volunteer firefighters. Did you know more than 70% of fire departments across the state are volunteer-based? Now the State Fire Marshal's office is trying to make it easier for people to get connected to volunteer opportunities. 10 TV's Tara Jabor has our story.
The State Fire Marshal's office recently launched a new portal to help connect people with volunteer firefighter opportunities across the state. Hundreds of communities in Ohio count on volunteer firefighters to answer the call. Now the State Fire Marshal's office is trying to help recruit more volunteers.
And most of those are out in the rural areas of the state of Ohio. And so they're always looking for someone to come in, back support and fill. Majority of the people that have been doing this for a while are getting older, they're retiring out.
The portal instantly connects people who are interested in volunteering to fire departments in need of the help.
A lot of times a volunteer firefighter lives in that local community, they're working a full-time job.
Volunteers have to train. Each department has different standards. Volunteers start off with a 36-hour training, then move on to an intense 240 hours of training. John Harvey, president of the Ohio Association of Professional Firefighters, says it's a big commitment, but one that is worth it.
Becoming familiar with the equipment, the different types of tools that we have to use, the different types of situation you'll get into to be able to communicate clearly.
Harvey hopes that people who volunteer turn into full-time firefighters.
We want those volunteers to become our members, to build on their career and become professional firefighters and have a long, healthy career.
King says being a firefighter is all about serving citizens and making a real difference.
You go to your job every day and you know that you have an opportunity to help someone and help them in their times of need.
And we'll have a link to that portal on our website, 10tv.com. Reporting in Reynoldsburg, Tara Jabor, 10TV News.
Tara, thank you. Next on Face the State, bipartisan support building to make the Buckeye the state candy. Lieutenant Governor and former Ohio State head football coach Jim Tressel is promoting healthy lifestyles for kids. He visited a bunch of schools all across Ohio to share his message this past week. He was joined by former Ohio State football star Ted Ginn Jr. and other athletes. The Team Tressel Fitness Challenge is for kids in grades 4 through 8 across Ohio. It's a 90-day program that will challenge kids to develop healthy habits in fitness, nutrition, and sleep. Throughout the challenge, students will work through 3 levels, beginning with bronze and continuing through silver and gold.
We have demonstrations on our YouTube channel of all the way from adapted students in wheelchairs to some of our student athletes from Ohio State demonstrating, and people can just pick, and it's like any other fitness thing. You want to do the one that you enjoy doing so that you'll keep doing it and see the results of it.
The challenge begins on September 8th. Kids will have to opt in to participate. Well, here's a story for every Ohioan with a sweet tooth for the confectionery combination of chocolate and peanut butter. The Buckeye candy may be iconic across Ohio, but it is not the official state candy, at least not yet. A new bipartisan bill aims to enshrine the sweet treat in state law. I set out to find out what it means to a couple candy companies in Columbus. More than 14 million Buckeyes roll off the assembly line here at Anthony Thomas Candy Company every year. So you can imagine where the company stands on the new Buckeye bill.
Seeing that it could potentially be the state candy is so important to us.
Nick Trifolis's great-great-grandfather and great-grandfather Anthony and Thomas Zanettis started the company in 1952.
What's cool is a lot of these employees, you see them from the 80s or in the 70s. We still have some of these employees here working today.
Making Buckeyes with that all-consuming combination of smooth chocolate and creamy peanut butter.
This candy is more than just, a sweet treat. It's a tradition and it's a cultural heritage of our state.
I didn't realize it was state candy.
So, State Senator, Ohio State Buckeye fan, and Buckeye eater Bill DeMora introduced the bipartisan Senate Bill 247 to designate the Buckeye as the state candy. He says it makes sense because so many people love the treat, and it looks like the nut off the state tree, the Buckeye tree. Plus, he says this bill is a nice break from legislative contentiousness.
Having a bill like this is just something to take your mind off it, that something is not controversial, it's kind of fun.
He got the idea from a new staffer.
My new aide, who worked at a candy store, the Buckeye lady, over the summer.
And she actually was the one that introduced the bill to the state senator.
Alicia Hindman owns the Buckeye Lady candy store in Columbus.
Hand making the stuffed Buckeyes.
They put a twist on the traditional Buckeye.
We stuff them with extra ingredients. So we actually trademarked the term stuffed Buckeye.
Whether traditional or stuffed, the Buckeye Lady and Nick at Anthony Thomas agree on the Buckeye Bill's potential positives.
We could say we serve the official state candy of Ohio.
Lawmakers are scheduled to be back in session in mid-September. I suspect they'll want to do a lot of research on this topic before voting on the bill, just like I did for this story. Couldn't resist. We'll let you know what happens with the Buckeye bill in the legislature. That's all of our time for today. Thank you for joining me this week for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. I'll see you next Sunday at 11:30. Have a great day.